What's up, guys? 2-0 last night. Feeling like we're getting somewhere. Maybe. I don't know. 2-0 yesterday, I should say, because one of them was the afternoon baseball game, the under in that pitching matchup there, Royals White Sox. Not very good offensive teams either. That one got there. It got a little sketchy near the end. I think it was a 2-1 game until like the seventh, and it wound up being 4-2. But by the time it got down to the ninth, it was like, yeah, the White Sox would need to put up a 3 spot in the bottom of the ninth to send this over. Although knowing my luck, I thought that might actually happen, but it did not happen. That one got there, and then the Tampa Bay and Angels game was back and forth, man. And the Angels had a 3-1 lead, I think, in the seventh inning, so it was looking pretty good for them. They blew the lead. I think they fell behind 4-3 and won in the ninth inning with 2 runs in the top of the ninth to take it 5-4. Probably, maybe it would have been better to take a first 5-inning play on that one. I don't know, man. It was still, at the price, it was still the right side. And given the situation, the Angels being the underdog like that, and it got there. I won't complain about it. We'll move on to today. We have 2 more NBA games for today, right? Or no, that's tomorrow. Oh, all right. Well, we can wait to talk about the NBA then. What am I even doing? I don't even know what day it is. We'll talk about it tomorrow, but I don't know if there's any hurry to get on those. I will discuss them more tomorrow, but I like the New Orleans Pelicans again. I hate myself. That is why I want to take the Pelicans again. That would be something I forgot to mention in my rant yesterday. Zion Williamson, of course, notably suffered a hamstring strain in the fourth quarter of that game. He was dominating that game. He had like 40 points. He was a major reason why the Pelicans were dominating that game inside. He gets hurt in like the crucial moments of the game in the fourth quarter. Big reason why New Orleans wound up not winning that game. But if you follow me, you know what I like to do, and that is I like to find value on a team whose star player just got injured. I think it influences the line too much. Injured player theorist. I think you're getting a Pelicans team who is the better team over the Kings, and with Zion Williamson, it should be a favorite at home by probably about 3 points, I would say. Actually, probably the Lakers are probably a better team than the Kings, so maybe even Pelicans like 4 or something, but what you're seeing right now is the Pelicans is a home underdog at plus 1.5. I didn't want to discuss it to this degree, but I don't have that much else to talk about today because hockey doesn't even matter today, really, and not doing anything with that. And baseball's a very short card. But yeah, long story short, it's going to be the injured player theory coming into play there, giving us value on the Pelicans. Excuse me, you're getting them as a home underdog now, plus 1.5 is what it is right now. But the Kings are also public, so you might be able to get even better than that. The public just saw the Kings wreck Golden State. They saw the Pelicans lose yet again. They're not going to want to have anything to do with it. But I do. And then also, there could just be a matchup problem between these two teams, maybe a coaching problem or something, because one thing that the recreational bettors might not look into or consider is the fact that the Pelicans actually were 5-0 this season against the Kings. And I think the majority of those games weren't even really that close either. So that is something to keep in mind. There seems to be like maybe a style or matchup thing there where the Kings don't match up well against the Pelicans for whatever reason. I don't know how much of a factor Zion is in that. I might have to dig in a little deeper there, but I believe I will be on the Pelicans again in that one. And then I actually might take the Bulls as well. You can get them, it looks like 2.5 or maybe even 3 right now against the Heat. I think that the Bulls are going to be the way to go, just because if you have been following all the talking heads or whatever, they were all just saying, oh, this 9-10 matchup between the Bulls and the Hawks. Whoever comes out of that game, man, they have no chance. They're done. Like, we're going to see 76ers and Heat move on. So these like talking heads, probably the recreational bettors, so like nobody is giving the 9-10 a shot at all. And it's a pretty short line. It just looks way too easy to take the Heat, to take Jimmy Butler against a Bulls team that is a little bit scoring challenged. And I mentioned they were the better defense over the Hawks last night, which was true. I should have played that game probably. That was my lean last night. My strongest NBA lean that I mentioned on the show was to the Chicago Bulls last night, and they won pretty easily. But the Bulls, they're also not a good defensive team. They're just better than the Hawks. The Hawks are just not very good. So I don't know. We'll see. But it's mostly just because the 9-10 winner just has been constantly being trashed and saying they're done and they have no chance against this Heat team. And now we just saw the Heat play really well against the 76ers. The Heat also blew that game kind of epically. They had that game. And it looked like my Celtics are probably going to wind up having to play the 76ers because the 76ers were going to be in this game as probably, I don't even know, like a 7-point favorite probably against the Bulls is what they would have been. So it was, if the 76ers lost yesterday, it was highly likely they were going to wind up playing the Celtics. I got my Celtics hat on again. My Celtics, that would have been the worst possible matchup for the Celtics. The Celtics still might run into the 76ers, actually. I'm going to fill out an NBA bracket on ESPN. I might have the 76ers getting to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Celtics in my bracket. That might be the way that I wind up doing it in there, because the 76ers, their record is not indicative of what they actually are, man. With Joel Embiid on that team, they lose very few games. I do think that they're going to potentially beat the Knicks, get through that, and then I don't think it looks good for Milwaukee either if Milwaukee winds up running into them. So 76ers, probably the most dangerous 7 seed that I can remember, just because of the way the injuries played out and the way Embiid not being there for 2 months destroyed their record. With him, they are the second best team in the Eastern Conference. So that scared me. I'm just hoping that they get knocked out along the way by somebody that give the Celtics a little bit of an easier matchup there. We'll see what happens there, though. We'll move on to talking about today's games. Oh, well, also congratulations to the Philadelphia 76ers for coming away with that win. They were losing almost the whole game, wound up getting into the lead late, played much better late in the game, actually made a huge comeback. I think they had a double-digit comeback pretty late in the game there, and then wound up winning. And then there was some controversy at the end. I guess some of the Miami Heat faithful, I guess, were angry at what happened at the end of the game, where Miami had hit a 3 to cut it to 1 with 0.3 seconds left. Philadelphia inbounded it and lost the ball, and it went out of bounds. But it looked like by the time it hit out of bounds, the clock had already expired. So there's nothing you could do about that. And also, the Heat are going to run the entire length of the floor in 0.3 seconds and somehow score? I don't really think so. I mean, if there is still time on the clock, you do have to give them that chance at it, but I also don't think there was. I think it was clearly the clock expired before the ball went out of bounds there at the end there. It was, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's anything that you can complain about to that extent. So anyway, congratulations to Philadelphia there. And that game also wound up by going under the total, I believe, I think, or actually did it go over? Because the total was a lot lower. I don't know. Both games might have gone over last night, actually. The second game actually did wind up going over. Atlanta just playing no defense at all. Kind of an easy win for Chicago. Nice win for Chicago. I don't know if that's going to give me any hesitation on the Chicago play against Miami. Probably not. I don't think the recreational bettors are going to say, oh, Chicago put up 131. We love them now. Even putting up a high score like that, I don't think is going to get the public all over Chicago. I would not have to think. But we'll get into that tomorrow when those games are played. So tonight there are no NBA games. NHL tonight, I think everything is pretty much set, except that I think Vegas and the LA Kings, who both play tonight, I think those teams could actually flip in the standings. So Vegas is actually I believe they're in the wild card spot right now, and the LA Kings are in the 3rd spot in their division, and both those teams are in the same division. And I believe LA has a chance to swap Vegas has a chance to swap places with them. Not really a huge deal. Difference between the 3 and the 4 potentially. So I don't know if there's going to be a particular team doesn't have a good particular matchup in the first round. I don't know if there's going to be anything like that there, but both Vegas and LA are both huge favorites against bad teams tonight too. They're both those are also the teams with the most to play for tonight. If there's even anything to play for, there's mostly not much left to play for these teams. Edmonton and Colorado are both good teams, and Vancouver and Winnipeg. So those are both games with 2 playoff teams getting involved. So I don't know if those teams will still show up just because it's a big matchup, and maybe these home teams will show up for their last home game. I'm not getting involved in any of that. I'm looking to Major League Baseball, and I will say it's a very short card. There are 2 situations where this is one of those days, man, on Thursday where you get some games where it's the first game of a new series, and that is the case with Miami and the Cubs, and Arizona and San Francisco, so both National League games. These are both situations where I'm pretty sure the road team is starting a road trip, which tends to be a positive for that team, and the home team is returning home from a road trip, which tends to be a negative. The way the scheduling dynamics work, man. You start a road trip, that tends to be a positive, and you return from a road trip, it tends to be a distraction because you return home, you have all home life to get back to, whereas starting a road trip basically means you get to leave home and you get to leave those distractions. It tends to be more of a spot where you actually focus on playing the game. So I believe that is the situation that we have going on there. Miami is starting a road trip against Chicago. The Cubs returning home from a long road trip. Normally, I would actually, so I would be looking to play on Miami here, but there's one thing that just makes me not really want to do it. Miami lost yesterday to San Francisco. They used 3 of their relievers. It's not really a deal breaker for that to be the case. With a potential play on Miami here as a decent sized underdog. The Cubs yesterday, what did they do? Where are they at? I'm trying to figure this out here. What did the Cubs even do yesterday? Were they off? They weren't off. No, they played Arizona. So actually, this is interesting too, because San Francisco and Miami played against each other yesterday. The Cubs and Arizona played against each other yesterday. And those teams are like switching opponents now. So those 4 teams are also involved in these 2 particular games I'm talking about today. And I think it's because a lot of these other teams are, the rest of the board, like these teams are either off today or they're actually finishing a series that is ongoing right now, which is the case with these 3 other games, I think. So I don't know, kind of interesting the way that works out. Kind of strange. The Cubs only used 2 relievers yesterday, so the Cubs bullpen spot is actually a little bit better. Cubs have Jameson Taillon pitching today. He has not pitched yet this season, so he's making his first start this season. And I don't know, is it Taillon? I pronounce it Taillon because it's French. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but his career stats actually aren't too bad. Strikeout numbers a little bit low from what you would like to see, but most of his other numbers pretty good. Like strikeout walk ratio, not bad really. Decent whip on the season, or decent whip on his career, I should say. ERA right at 4. I mean, that's just like, oh yeah, this guy's like an okay pitcher. I don't know what to think about a pitcher who's been in the league for a long time and they haven't pitched for a while. Now they're making their first start this season. Like, is it going to pump them up, or are they going to be like rusty? That kind of, I mean, that's kind of questionable. But of course, if this guy's going to be starting in the majors again, you got to think that he made some starts in the minors or something prior to this. So it's not like he's just coming in completely cold. So there is that. But Miami has AJ Puck starting for them. There's just no way I'm gonna make a play on Miami with this guy starting. No matter, even if the scheduling situation calls for a play on Miami, I just wish they had a better starter pitching because I would be on them. But there's no way I'm going to do it with Puke on the mound with almost a 6 ERA, a mid-2s whip. He has a 500 batting average. Oh, no, wait, I'm looking at his stats against San Francisco. Against the Cubs, 364, off of them lifetime. Only an 11 at-bats, but still, there's nothing to like about that guy. So Taillon is definitely the better pitcher. In that one, I don't want to do it. And Chicago's bullpen is in a little bit of a better situation. It's just they're returning home from a 3-series road trip, I think, which is certainly not the best spot for the Cubs to be in. And I believe they're out west too. So not the best spot for them at all. Miami getting to get away from home could be a better spot for them, but just the pitching matchup really keeps me off of that one. And I just don't want to be on Arizona's starter either, because San Francisco is returning home from a little bit of a shorter road trip duration-wise, 2 series on the road, but they're returning home from the East Coast because they were just in Miami. They were in that Miami game. And they actually used a bit of their bullpen yesterday. So the Giants' bullpen situation, not that great because they used some of their best relievers to hold off Miami in that one after a good start from Keaton Wynn, one of the young guys in San Francisco's rotation. But it was against Miami. I mean, yeah, whatever. But San Francisco used like 3 of their best relievers, including the closer, in that game. So all of that would have me start looking against San Francisco. Oh, they're returning home from a road trip, and their bullpen isn't in the best spot. All right, so let's look at what Arizona did. Arizona just lost to the Cubs. All right, sweet. They're coming off a loss, starting a road trip. All that's a positive. Everything about this is like let's play Arizona here. Let's play Arizona. Oh, Arizona got a 7-inning, pretty good performance out of Fott yesterday, too. Or Fat. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I made those jokes last year when I was when I first started doing these videos, talking about the playoffs. Playoffs? We don't talk about playoffs. Yeah, Fott did pretty well yesterday. So Arizona only used 2 of their relievers, and one of them is Mantiply, who he's not one of their better relievers. He's kind of a guy that just comes in and like chews up innings. Although that was a close game. I don't know why they brought him in. He gave up 2 runs and was kind of one of the major reasons they lost. I don't know why they did that, but I don't think he's one of their better relievers at all. So Arizona's bullpen also in a pretty good situation. So, all right, everything's looking good to play in Arizona here. By the way, I should say the Cubs are down from -155 to -149 in their game. 93% of the tickets, 97% of the cash. I don't know if I buy those percentages. It looks like the money is moving somewhat against the Cubs and their public. So there is reverse line movement against them. But again, there's no way I'm going to play Miami with that matchup. I think that Arizona is the better of these 2 plays. San Francisco has actually gone up, though, from -155 to -159 money line. 72% of the tickets on this. So San Francisco's public, even though they're facing an Arizona team who might be, arguably could be the better team still, and was in the playoffs last year, although the line is telling you they're not the better team. Line with San Francisco favored. The line is telling you they're not. San Francisco is behind Arizona in the standings, though, and Arizona was in the playoffs last year. So I don't know what makes them so public in this one, other than maybe it's just the weight that the San Francisco Giants name carries, just because they're a better, like, they're a team is just considered to, they have a better history, basically. I don't know. I don't know what to think about that, but 72% of the tickets on them, but 68% of the cash over on the other side on Arizona. I do agree with it, and you can maybe find some ways to take Arizona as an underdog in different ways, but the starting pitching matchup I just don't think is something that I really want to get involved in. Everything else looks good for Arizona, the scheduling dynamics, the fact that they're starting a road trip against San Francisco, returning home from a road trip, bullpen situation looks good. I like how when you have these really short cards like this, I get like way more in detail on some of these games that I'm not even playing. Ryan Nelson, though, is pitching for Arizona. His stats, he's just not a very good pitcher, unfortunately. I don't think. ERA in the 5s this year, 1.61 whip. That's not good. But he has done it against good offenses for the most part. The Yankees and Atlanta, those are pretty good offenses. And then he had his best start against the St. Louis Cardinals, who are not quite as good as those other teams. But even in those games, he didn't allow more than 4 earned runs in any of them, but it was 4 earned runs in 2 2/3 against the Yankees with 4 walks and 5 hits allowed. So that was a really rough start for him. The other 2 starts, not bad, though. He only gave up 3 runs in 5 innings to the Braves and had a 7.0 strikeout walk ratio, 4.1 strikeout walk ratio in the Cardinals game. And in that Braves game, he gave up 2 home runs, too, and still only gave up 3 earned runs. So that performance was actually fairly good. I just don't trust him, though, with these numbers. I mean, it's possible that he is going to improve. He's young. He's 26. He only has 1 full season so far in the majors last year, but his stats last year weren't good either. 5.31 ERA, 1.42 whip, close to what his numbers are this season so far, too. Strikeout numbers were way low. Not that much of a strikeout pitcher, it appears, and walk numbers too high. I just can't do that. Unfortunately, I cannot do it. And his stats against San Francisco are also bad. 10 for 31 off him lifetime, 323 opponent batting average, 957 OPS. That's not something I want to get involved in either. So Ryan Nelson, I just can't make a play on that guy. I'm sorry. Logan Webb, the better pitcher out of these 2 for sure. He's pitching for San Francisco. His overall career stats pretty good, and he's still only 27, 3.42 ERA career-wise, 1.18 whip. This year, 3.8 ERA, but a whip a bit too high at 1.39, but I think that might kind of correct itself a little bit. His strikeout rate a little bit better than Nelson's is on his career, and walk rate is lower as well for a decent strikeout walk ratio of 3.9. Pretty good, actually. And then his stats against Arizona, though, they're not good. So that is one thing that does also point in the Arizona direction. So even though Webb is the better of these 2 pitchers, he has not been good against Arizona in a large sample size. 37 for 125 off of them. They have 8 extra base hits, 7 doubles, and a home run. He does have 25 strikeouts against them, but 10 walks. That's way too many walks. This is a 296 opponent batting average against him, but only a 724 OPS. So the OPS isn't sky high. If it was a little bit higher, maybe that would indicate a little bit better for this play on Arizona as well. If you wanted to, I don't have a play on it, but if you wanted to play on Arizona there. But the main thing that keeps me off it is just that I can't be on Ryan Nelson in that one. And then I think Miami is a weaker play out of those two. AJ Puke, no thank you. No thank you. The game that I'm actually going to be on, the only play that I have today, actually, because there is no NBA today. So we got one play. If you know me, you know what I'm doing, man. I'm going to be on the Texas Rangers here. I actually think we're getting value on the returning champ Texas Rangers against a team that's considered to be a worse team in Detroit. You've got the public on Texas, unfortunately, with 81% of the tickets on them, but also 82% of the cash coming in on Texas. I think this is a spot where you can actually find some value on the Rangers, man. For once, the lines dropped from Detroit, a minus 115 favorite, down to minus 105. I think it's possible that the wrong team is favored there. Texas, the line's already indicating to you that Texas is the better team because Detroit's not getting the full home field advantage and kind of indicating that Texas might have the better of this pitching matchup. That's where I like this the most, man. So Texas did win yesterday. So they are 2-1 in the series so far. This is going to a fourth game in the series right now. Texas won. They won dramatically, really. They won with a run in the 9th inning, I believe, after Detroit had tied it back up in the 8th. Pretty dramatic win. Texas did use more of their bullpen. They used 4 of their relievers, kind of a bunch of their best relievers, really, I would say. I forget who their closer is, but he might have been involved in that too, whereas Detroit only used 2 of their relievers, although a couple of their better relievers. Detroit is in better shape bullpen-wise, just because they use fewer of their relievers. So that means, oh, God, I'm going to go to a first 5-inning play in the play that I'm going to make in this one, man. And hopefully it doesn't bite me, but I just don't like the bullpen situation that much. And I'm not sure Texas's bullpen is really that great either. I don't think either of these teams really have a great bullpen. So I'm focusing on the starting pitching matchup here. And you know it's going to be another one where I lose the first 5-inning bet and Texas winds up winning the full game, because that's just the way it's gone for me recently. That would piss me off so much. But Texas, their bullpen's in the worst spot, so I just want to take them out of the equation there. I do think that the way Detroit lost that game last night could be a bit deflating because they're playing against the returning champs. It's a big game. I think they'd beaten them the game before that. This game, they tie it back up in the 8th inning or whatever, and then they wind up losing in the 9th. So, yeah, it's a dramatic win for Texas, but I think more so it might be a deflating type of loss for Detroit. So I do think that might be a strike against Detroit. Detroit has Kenta Maeda pitching for them. I believe he is new to Detroit this year. He was on the Dodgers for a while back in the day, and then he was on the Twins most recently. I think most people remember him being on the Twins for a few years. Career stats are not bad, really. 3.95 ERA, 1.14 whip, but he is 36 now. He does have a good strikeout rate, 961 and 881 in the 3rd innings pitched with 253 walks. That's a little bit high, but 3.8 strikeout walk ratio with a lot of strikeouts. Good whip, pretty good ERA. So he's a pretty good pitcher overall. This season has not been very good for him, though. He is 0-1 with a 6 ERA and a 1.27 whip, and he really has not faced any great offenses. So it's like, what's going on with this guy? I don't know. He's struggling in his new with his new team, I guess. I don't know what the deal is there, but he's been okay though since the first start. First start was the worst, where he gave up 6 earned runs in 3 1/3 to the awful Chicago White Sox. What is up with that? So he's not facing good offenses, man. And then he actually had a pretty bad start against Oakland too, giving up 3 earned runs in 5 2/3. And the bad thing about that start was he walked 4 guys, so that's not good either. So his wildness coming into play again. And then he had a good start against Minnesota, although they wound up losing by 6 in extra innings somehow. But that was not his fault. He was good in that game. He only gave up 1 earned run in that game, had 5 strikeouts, no walks. So his best start was there. Maybe he was pumped up, though, because that was him facing the team that let him go. That was his first start against his former team. I had mentioned that. I mentioned that briefly on this channel, on that daily video I did there. I said, well, Maeda's pitching against his former team. Like, you might want to, I would potentially lean that way. And he had a good start in that game. It's just the bullpen really, I think, screwed him over in that game. So he was good in that one. But that was also kind of an emotional like type of win for him. So I think he could be in line for a letdown type of spot here because that was a good start for him, and it was against the Twins who got rid of him. He might be in line for maybe kind of like a come down here, like kind of a bad spot for him here. He's up against the Texas Rangers, and the Rangers have hit him pretty well over these players' careers. The Rangers are 11 for 37 off of him lifetime. 5 doubles, 1 home run. That's not that much, but he has 9 strikeouts against them, but 4 walks. So a 297 batting average and 4 walks. He's been putting a lot of these guys on base when he's faced these Texas hitters, man. A 933 OPS. And also looking at these hitters up against him, some of the guys listed here, because I look at ESPN's batter versus pitcher stats when I talk about these stats. That's the best view that I've found, really, where you can see this pitcher against all the specific hitters that this other team has right now. I think that's the best. But looking at this also includes Eovaldi, who's a Texas pitcher, going 0 for 1 off him, and John Gray, who's also one of their pitchers, going 0 for 2 off him. So you could take that out of the equation too. And then it actually becomes a little bit even worse for Maeda. Then it becomes 11 for 34 instead. So I think that puts us over a 300 opponent batting average against him instead. And it will move that OPS up a little bit further, close to a 1,000 OPS off him. So he has not been good against these Texas hitters. And then to finish out the analysis here and put a nice little bow on this, where, as I said, it does look like the market is moving in the direction of Texas here. Looks like we do have some money coming in, even though they are public. Public doesn't necessarily mean it's the wrong side, man. Got to look at everything. Sometimes the professional bettors agree with where the public is, and I think that's what we see here. With it looks like a lot of agreement on where the money is coming in, with the money moving towards Texas. Texas having more of the cash percentage than the ticket percentage, even though they are public. Texas has Jack Leiter making his major league debut today, man. Jack Leiter, he's only 23 years old. He's actually Al Leiter's son, and he is not what his father was. His father was a good pitcher, though, man. I remember seeing Al Leiter. I remember seeing him pitch live. I'm almost positive that I saw one like really close, low-scoring game at Fenway Park between the Mets and the Red Sox. So this is a little bit of Toad history now. Back when I was a kid, I used to go to a bunch of games with my dad. I believe it was Tim Wakefield against Al Leiter in that game. The Red Sox wound up losing the game like 2-1 or something like that. A really low-scoring pitching duel in that game. It was an interesting game. I was in the grandstand. It was crazy. It was just such a low-scoring game. You got a knuckleball pitcher in there. You're sitting in the grandstand. It's an afternoon game. Everything about that felt so like old school, like you were at an old time. It was in, of course, Fenway Park. It felt just everything about it felt like almost being in a time warp and going back in time. And of course, that was when I was a kid. It was before the Red Sox had won a World Series. So they were in that huge drought, and everybody on the Mets fans were packing the stadium because it was in Boston, so they don't have to travel very far. They were, of course, shitting on the Red Sox, shouting 1918 at us, because that was the last year the Red Sox had won a World Series. Mets beat the Red Sox, obviously, in 1986 in the World Series. The Bill Buckner ball through the legs series. I was too young to remember that, though. I was only a baby when that happened, so probably lucky for me, I don't remember that. I'm sure my dad was not happy about that. But Al Leiter, yeah, all that being said, I'm just reminiscing. I forget if Al Leiter even was actually the pitcher for the Mets in that game. I'm pretty sure that he was, though. But Leiter was a lefty. He had a long career, man. I think he was more about like control. He was more of an accuracy pitcher, a control pitcher. Had a really good career. But now his son Jack Leiter's coming up. He's a righty, and I believe he throws harder and is about making hitters miss, man. He is a big time strikeout pitcher. So I like this. So even though you might say, well, is he going to be overvalued because of the name Leiter, and we know his father had a great career or whatever, I think Jack Leiter in ways is a more imposing pitcher than his father, just because of what you can see out of his stats, man, where he throws like mid-90s fastball, like high mid-90s basically, and really has like crazy strikeout numbers. If you look at some of his minor league numbers, some of which aren't good, but his strikeout numbers are consistently really good. He's getting hitters to miss at like a really high rate. His whiff percentage is really high in like the 44% range, which I think is really insane, like really crazy, although it's against minor league hitters. Yeah, but I mean, these guys are still professional baseball players. Leiter making his major league debut, you know about me, man. I like to be on pitchers making their major league debuts because they're going to be pumped up, and you got a situation where, why is my camera always doing this? You got a situation where the opposing hitters have never faced him before. And when it's a guy who's that he has really good stuff like this, those hitters are probably going to be at a disadvantage because they have not faced him in a live game situation before. They're not used to it. They don't know what they're about to see. That's an advantage to the pitcher. Jack Leiter, he was one of the top draft picks, I believe, in 2021. I want to say he was like the number 2 or 3 overall draft pick, something like that. I think he's considered to be like the top prospect in Texas's organization, one of the top prospects. He's a 5-pitch guy. It looks like he's got of course, the 4-seam fastball, which, like I said, is high mid-90s. It seems basically he's got a cutter that I saw some footage of him throwing that. That thing's got some nice movement on it, man. That thing's got like hitters whiffing on that thing. That cutter seems to be one of his best pitches. And then he's got a couple of speed-changing pitches. It seems like he has like slider, curve, I think, and then he also has a changeup, which, although I think that's his worst pitch, but he is out there throwing these different types of fastballs, man, for sure, and mixing in just enough like speed-changing pitches. I think that he's got like a decent arsenal on him. And his minor league numbers, the stuff that stands out, like I said, is the strikeout percentages are just insanely high. And in his most recent stint with, I don't know if it was AA or AAA, but he was striking out like 15 or 16 batters per 9 innings or something like that in his most recent minor league stint. That's just some crazy, crazy number. But like you see, he does have some bad looking numbers in the minors as well, with like a high whip, in some cases an ERA that's a bit too high. And most of it is because he's just crazy wild and just walking a bunch of people. So we'll see what happens here. But I do like all that. I like highly touted prospects, like I always say, who have really good stuff. And the opposing hitters have never seen him before. So we get him pitching in this game. As I was alluding to before, I'm taking the bullpen situation out of the equation because I don't really trust Texas's bullpen, especially after they used twice as many relievers as Detroit did in that close game yesterday. So that's the only play today, man. Let's go 0-1 here. Texas Rangers, you can get them at minus 10. Well, they're minus 102 full game. Looks like minus 105 is the best you can do in the. Let's get this going in right now, I guess. Looks like it's on DraftKings right now. You can get it at minus 105 first 5 innings. That's the only play that I'll have today. There you go, man. 33-minute video where I only talk about one play, but I think I gave some more information, some insight on some other games. So hopefully that is helpful as well. Hopefully I continue. I feel good right now, man, after, like having 2 winning days in the last 3 or something like that. 2 in the last 4, but like those winning days were sweeps to the board and just feels good, even though it's only like a slight win over that span. I don't know. Something feels right about this. So let's continue that. Peace.